All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number three. That is right, week number three of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and what we are going to do this week is we are going to do a fairly quick state of the course update because things are going fine. And then after we do the state of the course update, which will probably be about 5 to 7 minutes, we're actually in that part now, then we are going to talk about two very common APA mistakes. Now, I do this every semester in every class. And what I am going to say is this. Don't get me wrong. I purposely make these check-in videos optional, okay? Because when I did make them mandatory, I got a lot of complaints, and I do mean a lot of complaints from students. So as I'm trying to make the course better, as I'm trying to improve the course, I'm looking at the student feedback and the evaluations, and people are just like, yeah, we shouldn't have to watch the videos. So I do make them optional now. However, one of the things that comes with making them optional is that, again, I do this check-in video every single semester in every single class where I talk about two common APA mistakes that get made by students. And even though I give warnings about these two common APA mistakes, I always have a bunch of students that make them. At least the first time that they have me as a professor, they make them without fail. And that's because, again, the videos are optional, but I don't know how to communicate this information to the students other than doing it in a check-in video, telling them in the announcement that, hey, don't overestimate your APA skills. If you have not had formal APA training, you might want to take a look at this, and letting the students know what assignments are going to be evaluated on for proper APA use. I do all of that, and people still end up learning the hard way and don't actually do their APA right until after they get points taken off on the first assignment. I do hope for that day where, I just have students, where all of my students just know how to do the APA properly by the time that first assignment that requires proper APA is due, and then I don't have to take any points off. However, I have not gotten there yet, and I don't know that this will be the semester that I get there. However, if I do get there this semester, if you all do your APA correctly, I will be very ecstatic. I will make an announcement about it, telling you all how great you are, okay? But anyway, we'll get back to the APA stuff and the common APA mistakes. Let's first talk about what's going on in the class. So first of all, we do have this kind of a little bit of a funky discussion board prompt this week that actually goes over 2 weeks. So those of you, I think pretty much everybody did start out on their discussion board number 2 last week. It is a 2-week discussion board prompt, so you're going into this week with it as well. So it's not due until September the 10th, which is this coming Sunday, as opposed to it being due on September the 3rd, okay? But what I do want to say is that you also have your database unassignment due on the night of September the 10th, which is this coming Sunday as well. Now, quite a few of you have already done that. And in fact, I am going to go in and show you all. Let's see here. Let's see if I can cover up a name for one thing. Unassignments. Okay. So I did put this little note down. First of all, you already had the format anyway. The format is in the prompt. And again, I don't feel that this assignment should take anybody longer than 2 hours. But I am going to go ahead and scroll. I'm going to cover up this name, even though y'all saw it. But I am going to cover up the name and pause for a second. So you all were bound to see the name anyway, and you're going to see it in the discussion board prompt on purpose, because what I want you all to do is, after everybody has done their unassignment, I want you all to go back and kind of read over the work that your, this is peer-to-peer learning. And what I want you all to do is look over the work that your classmates have done, because what I want you all to do is learn about these various databases through the work of your classmates. But the reason why I am kind of covering up a name is because I did have a situation in the past where a student was being apparently stalked, and so they didn't want their name on anything online. And so from there, I do try to just do my best to make sure that names are kind of protected in the online space as well as possible. But I bring this up here just to say that, yes, this submission from this student is actually a submission is going to get full credit. So if you want full credit, then if you match this level of effort that you see put forth by this student, you're going to be perfectly fine. All right, let's go back out to the announcements and just to see what else is upcoming. So again, your unassignment is due this coming Sunday night, as is your discussion board prompt number 2. And then also, I do want you all to be aware that 2 weeks from Tuesday, so 2 weeks from September the 5th, you are going to have a sync session, and this sync session is going to be with Wolfner Library, I believe. Let me actually double check on that. Speaker schedule. So yes, so Lisa is going to be joining us from Wolfner Library, and she's going to be discussing reference services to the disabled and the differently abled, okay? And that is very important. When we talk about diversity, we are talking about the disabled and differently abled as well. And there are some things that we should be doing to accommodate them so that they can use our library spaces to the fullest potential. And a lot of libraries are doing a great job with that, but you'll probably get some additional ideas from Lisa when she comes to speak, okay? All right, so outside of that, let's go ahead and talk about those 2 common APA mistakes. Give me one moment. So first of all, if you're hoping to do well in this class, and I hope that all of you are, then one thing that you are going to have to be aware of is the existence of the Purdue OWL. I shouldn't say you have to be aware of it, but the Purdue OWL is a great resource that offers you free, accurate citation help. And so I really, really hope that you all will take advantage of this. Now, if you bought the APA citation style guide, or you have it available at your place of work, that's fine too. But for those of you who don't want to buy the style guide, don't have it available at your job, or don't have it available in any meaningful way, then the Purdue OWL is going to get you through APA, at least in my class, for the intents and purposes of my course. And what I will say is that I'm going to be checking. I am going to be checking to make sure that the APA is done right. And I've been criticized in the past by students for making sure that their APA is done right in certain assignments. And what I'm going to say is do it right. I've had a student once say that my grading on citation styles is quote unquote nitpicky. Let me tell you all something. A lot of you are going to be publishing, especially if you go into academic libraries, you are going to be publishing. And no, your editor does not want to correct your APA because you didn't bother to learn it right, okay? Some editors will actually reject a piece or send it back to you and make you do the corrections instead of them doing it themselves, because they're not going to let you put that labor on them. I say that to say, hey, do it right, take this seriously, okay? So, and as librarians, you are going to be expected in some jobs to know the nuances and understand the nuances of citation styles, and to do at least the main citation styles, APA, MLA, and Chicago, to do them right, do them properly. And you cannot rely on citation software for that. Mendeley has errors, Zotero has errors. You can't just assume that your citation software is going to get it right for you. And then especially when you go into the databases, their example citations are only accurate 80% of the time, y'all. 80% may sound good, but that means that if you have 10 sources on a paper, there's a good chance that 8 of them are formatted improperly. I mean, not 8 of them, that 2 of them, are formatted improperly if you have a paper with 10 references, okay? And you just copied and pasted the sample citations from out of a database. Don't do that. They're not as reliable as you think. So I want you all to be able to do this on your own. So for the most part, you can just kind of browse around the Purdue OWL to kind of get a feel for how to do this properly. But there are 2 very common mistakes that, again, I have students make every single semester. Even when I warn them ahead of time in a video not to make these mistakes, they still make the mistake. And I get that part of the reason for that is because the videos are optional, but I do say in the announcement, don't overestimate your abilities. If you have not been trained on APA usage, you might want to take a look at this just to avoid losing points. And people, some people do, some people don't, but those who don't, A lot of times they lose the points in their first assignment, and then they're like, oh, shit, yeah, Dr. Jace really was telling us to be careful because he knew what he was talking about. And then they correct themselves from then on. But let's hope that we can get everybody to do things right this semester. And here is how we might be able to do it, is knowing these two common mistakes and avoiding them. So first, let's talk about our authors. And this is going to be, by the way, what I'm going to be talking about here is specifically for reference lists. They are for reference lists. Again, it is for the reference list. It is not for the in-text citations. It is for the reference list. But let's talk about the first very common mistake. And that very first common mistake is that people a lot of times will, if they have the information, they will write out first and middle names of their, they will write out the first and middle names of their authors. Do not do that, okay? So, for instance, and you see it right here, first and middle names should be written as initials, okay? I'm not just making this up. It is actually what the style guide calls for. So, if you see Jane Marie Smith and you are writing her name in a reference list, you will put Smith, comma, J, period, M, period. If you see my name, I'll give you my full government name. My name is Jason Kelly Austin, and you all know my name. If you are citing me on something and trying to use proper APA, you do not put Austin, comma, Jason Kelly. If you are trying to do your APA citation right, you do Austin, comma, J, period, K, period. That is how that works. And I'm going to scroll down just so you can see this done in other places. Well, maybe not scrolling down there, but let's go ahead and look at books. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and look at authors, and yeah, this will work. So, as you can see, let's pretend this guy's name is Sam Ahmad. You do not write out that first or middle name. You see that S period, and that's all you get. Ahmad, comma, S period. As you can see here, given names, first and middle names are initial. They're not written out. They're not written out here either. And if I scroll down, you will see that they are never written out. So don't write them out. Do them the way the style guide calls for them to be done, which is last name written out, comma, first initial, period, second initial, period. All right. So that's the first common mistake. And I know some of you are going to do it because you're not going to watch the video because you overestimate your skills. So yes, some of you are going to, for instance, if you cite me, write Austin, comma, Jason Kelly. I'm going to mark you wrong because you've been warned. All right. Now, the second common mistake is a little more tricky, okay? The second common mistake deals with capitalization, and I'm actually going to put an excerpt from the style guide in the announcement as well. So when it comes to capitalization, we're going to start out with books. And again, this applies specifically to the reference list, not the in-text citations. But for the reference list, you do not capitalize the way you capitalize in standard English, okay? Pay attention. Here's the basic format. And as you can see, we have a title here of a book. And when you are doing a reference list in APA, you do not capitalize every major word of the title. You only capitalize the first word of the title, the first word of the subtitle, and any proper nouns, okay? So here's an example. The name of this book, or title of this book, is Alexander the Great, A Life in Legend. As you can see, Alexander the Great actually in and of itself is a proper noun. This is a proper noun, Alexander the Great. So that is why great is capitalized. But you can see that even with a proper noun, the article is not capitalized. So the is not capitalized, wouldn't be capitalized unless it starts the title or the subtitle. But as you can see, life and legend are lowercase. And that is how this is done. Even major words that are not proper nouns and are not beginning the title or the subtitle are in lowercase. Let's scroll down and see a few more of these. Here's a book title, A new companion to Mallory. Mallory is capitalized because that's a proper noun, but as you can see, new and companion are in lowercase. That was written in some foreign language. I don't even want to bother with that because I don't want to confuse you all. But here's a book title. Writing Your Journal Article in 12 Weeks, A Guide to Academic Publishing Success. Writing is capitalized, and this is the subtitle that starts after the colon. A is capitalized. Your Journal Article, 12 Weeks, Guide, Academic Publishing Success. All lowercase. I want you all to pay attention to that and remember that. That's how this citation style works, okay? So make sure that for books, you are only capitalizing the first word of the title, the first word of the subtitle, and proper nouns. Now, things get a little more tricky when it comes to articles that are in periodicals. And for those of you who don't know, periodicals are things that come out periodically. So we're talking newspapers, we're talking magazines, we're talking journals, okay? Things that have volume and issue numbers tend to be periodicals, all right? And when you're dealing with a periodical, that funky capitalization applies, but it applies only to the title of the article, not to the title of the publication. Let me repeat, that applies to the title of the article, not the title of the publication. So as you can see, this is the title of a publication. It's the name of a journal, The New Criterion. As you can see, normal capitalization rules are being applied here, okay? New and Criterion are the normal, those are major words within a publication title, and they are capitalized. However, when we look at this article title, you see Eclipse is lowercase, you see listening is lowercase, because the article titles follow that rule. And the same would happen in a magazine or in a newspaper. Time isn't the greatest example because time only has one word. But if this were a magazine that had more than one word in the title, you would follow the normal English capitalization rules there. But for article titles within this magazine, as you can see, the only word that is capitalized is better. Late, than, and never are lowercase. If we look here, The Country Today is a magazine. You can see the normal capitalization there. But made, strengthen, state, energy, policies, lowercase. Okay? And newspapers will behave like that as well. Now, things get a little tricky when it comes to websites, and so I am actually not going to be as stern on websites as I am on books and periodical articles. So when you go into websites and that sort of thing, again, it gets kind of tricky here. But your basic format is going to be that you italicize the name of the web page, but you do not italicize the website name, but then you go ahead and you follow those abnormal capitalization rules for both. So as you can see, page is lowercase here and name is lowercase here in the example. And as you can see for this web page, laziness does not exist. Laziness is the only word that's capitalized. Exist, not capitalized. And if we were to, let's see if we can find a, okay, there you go. Well, no, that doesn't work. Yeah, see, I don't really like their examples in this because the examples are also kind of hard to follow. But again, when you're dealing with websites and web pages, yes, again, you're going to follow those rules to where first word of title, first word of subtitle, and proper nouns are capitalized for both. And then you lowercase everything else. And then you would put the a web page title in italices. A website title would not be in italices. Okay, so that is how all of that works. I know it's confusing. I know it's going to take some getting used to. You can use the online writery in order to have somebody kind of check over these things for you if you want. And I would recommend that. And you can just Google Mizzou online writery and it would take you right there. But I want you all to be aware of all of this because we are going to have assignments where it's going to count. There are only 2, but it is going to count with these 2. So when we look at our assignments, the Wikipedia edit assignment and the paper that you turn in with that, as well as the virtual reference practice paper, which will be due later this month on September 24th. For both of these, you will get counted off if your APA is not correct, okay? So for both of those, and you will see it in the rubric, no APA errors. There are places in the rubric where I can count off for these two assignments. These are the formal written assignments. You have to do your APA correctly for both of these assignments, okay? Let's see. Yeah, so you see it here too. APA and spelling errors, you need to avoid those. Now, I will not be checking for proper APA use in the discussion boards. I will not be checking for proper APA use in the semester-long project. And the reason for that is because I consider the discussion board prompts to be, I consider those to be more informal. I consider those to be more loose. So I'm not going to have you all have to be on your P's and Q's about getting your APA format perfectly correct there. Those are more informal. And then just to keep it real, I'm not even going to front on y'all. When it comes to your semester-long project, those take a long time for me to grade, and they would take even longer if I were trying to grade for proper APA use. So I bypassed that on that assignment because I've got to get those graded and turned in before the deadline that the school has established for me, okay? So those are your two common APA mistakes. Again, I know some of you are going to make the mistakes anyway, but hopefully those of you who have watched this video are going to avoid those mistakes, because I really don't like counting off. And so, yes, if you avoid making mistakes, then I don't have to count off for them. All right, so that is what I'm hoping that all of you will do, and I look forward to seeing all of you do that. But that is it for me. I am Dr. Jace, and be welcoming when people come into the library and the reference space. All right, that is it for me. I will see you all next week with another check-in video. We will learn about some database-y thing next week, and that will be most of the check-in videos from here on out. All right, have a great one.